place, and while the trains were flying through, full of passengers. So they did not even instruct the bullet train control center that this was happening. That was how much they had confidence. Next. So let me tell you one thing. This is audacious, it's precise, but let me point you at one thing I found very interesting in this image. What do you see from the new bridge has been put in place? It took 29 minutes to put that bridge in place. They tarred it overnight. After 2 days, the traffic was moving on the bridge. Why was that? Look at the bridge from where the bridge connects. Look at that road, it's ready. Look at the on-ramp, it's ready. Look at all those lights, they're ready. To eternity. So there were other project managers who were ready there, waiting to go. They had already done everything. And this is the way we need to think now. I want all of you guys who are young to think audacious like this, to think organized like this, to think efficient like this, right? This is what we're competing with in the world in some sense, right? And be confident, right? Because this is the new norm. This is the way people have to deliver. Next. Last one. Think business model. This is a personal story. Let's go. One more. Next. So this is a guy I met. I was about to make a trip to the US, and my iPhone died in the morning. And I had a problem. So I said, okay, I need to fix the iPhone. I called up the Apple store. It was 10 a.m. in the morning. I waited for them to come. And 10 a.m. in the morning, I called the Apple store. I said, I have this problem. They said, they asked me for my model number. They said, yeah, we can fix it. We have to order the part. I said, how long will that take? They said, it may take 5 days, 10 days. We don't know, sir. I said, do I have to bring the phone? Of course, you have to bring the phone in. Will you give me a replacement? No, we can't give you a replacement. I said, okay, now what do I do? They said, is there anything you can do to help? Oh, of course, we can sell you a new phone. I said, okay, you can sell me a new phone. Then I have to sync everything, and I have to set it up, and I have to spend some $60,000-$70,000. I don't really want to do that. So let me find out, but I have to leave this afternoon. I have to get it done right away. They said, sorry, we don't have a solution for you. So this is the Apple store, right? I'm done. So I said, okay, what do? I Google. I said, iPhone repair, and a little shop in Koromangala comes up. And he says, I call him, and he says, what is your problem? I said, I have this problem. He says, yes, no problem, bring it in. I say, how do you know I can bring it in? And how long will it take you to fix it? He says, it'll take me 15 minutes. I said, are you sure it'll take you 15 minutes? Because I have to catch a plane, I'm packing, and I'm busy this afternoon. I don't want to come all the way to Koromangala. It'll take me 1 hour each way minimum. But I'm willing to do it if I can get the phone fixed right away. He says, sir, I guarantee you it'll be fixed in 15 minutes. I said, 15 minutes? The Apple store just told me it's not possible. It might take 5 to 10 days. How will you fix it in 15 minutes? He says, sir, please come in, I'll fix it. And I said, do you know the problem? He says, yes, based on what you described, I know the problem. So I say, okay, take a chance, right? I say, okay, let's go see. Worst case, there's an Apple store in Koromangala. I'll buy the phone on the way back if I have to, or whatever, figure it out. So I go to him, and I say, are you going to fix this phone? And he takes the phone from me, and literally in 15 minutes, he says, I'll fix this, no problem. And I get the part, and it's going to cost you 9,000 rupees. He says, why don't you pay? I said, are you sure you have the part? And he says, no, just give me your credit card. He swipes the credit card. He calls somebody down. Somebody comes in. They open the phone up. They replace one part. One little part comes in a little, Ziploc bag. He takes that part out. It's a very small part. He replaces my part. He puts the phone back together. He runs some tests, gives it to me, and it's done. He's taken my 9,000 rupees. So I was like, just standing there amazed. I said, who runs this place? I want to talk to this person who runs this place, because my experience today with really the largest company in the world was very different than what you offered me, and I'm trying to figure out where this gap has arrived from, right? How did this, because my problem is now solved. This phone is done, and you've given me a 3-month warranty on this, right? This problem, and you were able to precisely tell me on the phone that you could fix this, whereas the company that manufactures this couldn't do that, right? So he says, I run the place. This is Mr. Agarwal, right? So this is the gentleman who runs the place. So I say, how do you run this place? Exactly. That was my reaction. So Harish, who's now a good friend, because I now rely on him for all things Apple, he tells me, Ravi, what I do is I buy brand new Apple products, okay? And I have a team of engineers upstairs. And it's a small shop. You go visit him. He's got 3-4 shops. You go visit him. He's got a small shop which is a front end. And we take apart all the brand new products and we put them into these Ziploc bags and we make them parts. And that's how I sell you a brand new part. And I sold it to you for 9,000 rupees. And I saw the part. It's a small little part. So I say, how does that make sense? You buy brand new Apple products? He says, yes, I buy brand new Apple products as soon as they arrive. I said, how many Apple products you buy? He said, I have every single Apple part for every single Apple product. Because I buy them all. I buy them brand new. And are you an Apple dealer? Are you authorized by Apple? No, I'm not. I just go buy them from the store. I said, how does it make sense to buy an Apple product at list price, take it apart for parts, and then sell it? He says, you don't understand. On the 9,000 rupees you just paid me, that part probably cost me 200 rupees. Okay? But your alternative, so, he takes apart an Apple product into thousands and thousands of 200 rupee parts and marks them up to 5,000, 10,000, 6,000, okay? So he says, I actually buy an Apple product for $2,000, let's say. I, on average, make between 6,000 and 8,000 bucks for that Apple product, okay? So if anybody knows anything about Apple, let me tell you, it's the most valuable company on the planet, okay? It's the company that commands the largest, technology company that commands the largest premium for its products anywhere, okay? It's probably the first company, if they keep their momentum going, that will hit $1 trillion market cap. And here is Mr. Harish Agarwal in Koromangala, who makes more profit on an Apple product than Apple can make. So it's amazing. So, for me, this is an amazing insight of how ingenious you can be as being an entrepreneur. Here he is, he has these 5 stores, and you visit him. Every single customer who walks up is a 10,000 buck ASP, 10,000 rupee ASP. Minimum. He's a happy guy, okay? He has engineers who he has paid very well, who don't leave him now, and he's built a small business that is awesomely profitable by doing something that is the right model at the right time for the right market, right? So I hope that's inspiring. Next. So, I posted it on Facebook, and, I'm quite active on Facebook, but this is the one that kind of struck a nerve, It got so many shares, I couldn't believe it. And this is like a couple of days after I posted it, right? It just kind of went viral within my friends at least. And, it's just amazing. So, my thought to you was, think different, shock everybody, and I hope this is useful. My last slide has... has my coordinates here. If you have something substantive to ask me, please feel free to ping me. I'd be glad to. What's that? Qualification. Yes. So Mr. Harish Agarwal, he's actually an 8th standard pass. So, so just to give you. Now, that doesn't mean he's not a smart guy. Every time I talk to him, we have a good chat, I chat about products, I chat about what the consumers are he's seeing, because he has so much insight, right? He's a really fun guy, So don't take the wrong, attribution from that. But, just goes to show, you need to find the right model of what you're doing, find something inspiring, and I hope each of you does that in your life, okay? Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, we have an interactive session now with Ravi Gururaj sir. So if you have any questions, any doubts you want to ask, you can ask. The mic will be passed on to you.
ಅದರ ಮುಂಚೆ ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಉದ್ದೇಶಿಸಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿದಂಥ ರವಿ ಗುರುರಾಜ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಇವತ್ತೇನು ಲೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಅಥವಾ ಇವತ್ತೇನು ನಮಗೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಮಾಹಿತಿಯನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಇನ್ಸ್ಪೈರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮೋಟಿವೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸಮರೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಶಾಂತ್ ಪ್ರಕಾಶ್ ಅವರು. ಅದಾದ ನಂತರ ತಾವು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಯನ್ನು ಕೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಇದೆ. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಯಾರು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಬೇಕಿದೆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆನ ಕೇಳಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊತೀನಿ. ಪ್ರಶಾಂತ್ ಪ್ರಕಾಶ್ ಅವರು ಸಮರೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊತೀನಿ.
So I thought it's good to take away some specific things from Ravi's talk, right? That's always useful. You listen to so many different things and you get inspired. But what are the 3 specific things that you'll take away? First, I think what Ravi started with, which was this is the best time to be an entrepreneur or participate in the entrepreneurial world. So you don't have to start out day one being an entrepreneur. Remember that. The very fact that today, instead of joining a MNC or a Big Five, you decide to go work in a startup is a good stepping stone. So once you guys finish your graduation, think about the option of going and working with the Harish Agarwal, right? That is an option. So that's one thing that you need to take away. It's okay to take a risk, and the small risk that you can take is by working in a startup. The second thing is you need to start thinking about what are the next opportunities. You know, you can't still think about, oh, I'll go learn Java or I'll go learn some specific skill. You need to know what are the trends. So Ravi spoke about the whole cloud revolution that's happening. He spoke about the whole data revolution, and thirdly, the new generation marketing. So we all our companies struggle with finding digital marketing folks. So go look at career options which are very, very different from what your seniors have done. Spend 1 week, spend 10 days trying to see what those opportunities are. What can you do that is very different from what your seniors did? And finally, I think you need to kind of take advantage of being in Bangalore. You know, there is just so much to participate and look around and see around and talk to people who are part of the startup world. So you're very fortunate to be in one of the top 5 cities in the world. So take advantage of that, get yourself out there and see what's happening. With that, I'll kind of say, please ask Ravi any questions. Take advantage of this opportunity again. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. It was very enlightening. I just have 2 questions, sir. One was, in example 2, you mentioned about audacious goals regarding China. But what I have observed from China is that in terms of FDI, they are light years ahead of India. And when it comes to development, they go for development at any cost. That is, they compromise on their environment, and there's a lot of huge pollution levels. To add on to this is, they have a very good GDP and their currency is really, really strong. If we consider today, 1 Chinese yuan is about $0.15 US, wherein we in India, we stand at about 66 rupees is equal to $1. So what do you suggest, sir? Should we go for a constructive development or development at any cost? We as a youth should go in which direction?
So, I think this is a good question that comes up a lot in the context of both China and then the comparison to Silicon Valley, let's say, right? I think, what we have to do in India, we have to build an Indian answer to this question. I don't think we can say we need to be China itself or we need to replicate that model exactly. It won't work for us. We're a democracy. It may take a lot longer to build a bridge, a lot longer to build a highway in India than it does in China, because they can do it by fiat. Here we have to follow our rule of our law, right? And go through the process as it is laid out. And I think some ease of business, some urgency in building infrastructure will be very important, I think, going forward for us as well. Otherwise, competitiveness will be lost, right? But I think you can't do it at the cost of individual rights, individual property rights. You have to be cognizant of that. I think that fundamental rights are very important to retain. Otherwise, we will lose what it is to be the largest democracy in the world, right? And a free people, right? In some sense. So I think that balance needs to be struck, okay? I agree with you that, we should find ways in which we can build that kind of growth engine without some of the downsides. It's not easy. It's easier said than done, but I think we should have that kind of goal. And I think technologies can help there. So I think, to answer your question, I don't know that you need to worry so much about currency. Oftentimes these currencies are a measure of how, an internal government wants to control flows and things like that. I don't read too much into currencies, honestly, okay? As much into growth rates, real growth rates, the actual upliftment of standards of living in the country, and the ability, I would say, for innovation to happen within the country. I think those are areas that are tangible. You can see it. I think in India you're starting to see innovation happen. I think you're starting to see entrepreneurs who want to innovate from here. So we should do everything we can to help them innovate here in India, for both India and the globe. So I think that's part of what the government is now trying to put in place. I hope they're able to get that in place in full measure, right?
Speaking of tangible measures, I have one question about the startups.
One question maybe per person.
Yes, we'll ask you a second question, but we'll take one per person.
Yes, sir. The last one is that we as a youth, what can we do for startups, or what can we expect the government that can do for us? I mean, what is the situation currently?
Yeah, I think, listen, first and foremost, what you should expect from the government is a nurturing environment, some ease of business. I don't think, while there may be some funding, there may be some infrastructure, I don't think you should depend on that too much. You should really bootstrap a business to the extent you can. By bootstrap, I mean do something that you can start with a budget of money you have, that you can marshal from friends and resources and family, right? That's what I would depend on, because oftentimes handouts can only go so far, and they come with maybe sometimes too many strings and slow you down, right? Even the application process can be quite onerous, so I would hope for a clear road, but then you have to charge down the road yourself with your own fuel tank a little bit, right? That's the best way.
Ravi, thank you for the wonderful presentation. I'm a mechanical engineer thinking to come up with a new product. So my question is how to safeguard my IPR rights. So because when you think of a startup in our society, it's affordability to file the IPR rights is quite...
Yeah, so on IPR, actually the government has been very progressive on that in terms of supporting companies and young entrepreneurs who want to file for IPR. Now, they are willing to sponsor up to 50% of the costs of funding a patent, okay? Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that that's a good answer to your question, which is, even the other 50% can still be quite a large number and take time, right? Oftentimes. So my suggestion to you would be, if you think it's something that you need to keep very secret, then keep it a trade secret. That is, keep it confidential, keep it in stealth, keep it under wraps if you can. Now, it's not always possible. The other is, at least if you can't do that and you can't afford a patent, I would still go ahead and build the business and worry about, competing later. Not get too caught up in the IP rights per se, right? In the early stage. So not a perfect answer to what you're looking for, but I think that's the way to think about it, okay?
Thank you.
We'll take one more question if there is. Yeah, we got one there.
Good evening, sir.
Yep.
Good morning. Sorry. I just wanted to ask you that...
Have I put you to sleep? No.
I just wanted to ask you that many of the investors, they like to have something new from the entrepreneurs who start a new startup. What do you like to have from your investments? What did you get from?
You're asking in terms of what does an investor look for?
Investor looks for a new entrepreneur.
Okay, so I'm an investor, but an angel investor. So I will let Prashant later answer that question for you, since he's a formal institutional investor. But let me tell you what I think, and I'll answer the question differently than you're saying. But I'll give it to you from the entrepreneur's perspective, like what matters, right? And oftentimes the focus and most of the energy of especially young entrepreneurs is on the idea, okay? And the idea matters, but I'll tell you, ideas are quite dime a dozen. And in fact, most the top VCs will see many times the same idea in different clothes, right? From different people. So I think idea matters to some extent, but I think much more important is a couple of things in my mind. Is the team, who's going to execute this, the execution plan, the size of the opportunity. If you're going for an investor, this is one thing lots of people don't understand, is if you're going to go to an investor, you need to make sure you're going after a market that's pretty big. Otherwise, where will they get their return from? But that doesn't mean every business needs to be a big business only. Okay? You can solve a small problem. It's perfectly good for you as a business. You can build a good business around it. But it may not be investor ready. Okay? You got to understand that. Not every business. In fact, 99.9% of businesses in India will not get an investor to invest in them. It'll be family, it'll be internal funds, it'll be accruals, that is money that comes from the business itself, growing organically. That's the way most businesses are built, okay? So I know when you read the newspaper, you see a lot of focus on investors, and that's great for some of the few small segment of companies that are investor ready, okay? But let me get back to, from an entrepreneur's perspective, what I think matters. One is I think the team matters. I think the sector you're going after matters. I think the competitive landscape matters. I think your perseverance, your willingness to get it done, your urgency level, your resilience as an entrepreneur is paramount. Because most often you can win against the competition if you have that. The last thing you don't have much control over, but is also, I find, at least in my career has been very important, is the timing has to be right. And that's, people might call it luck. It's just that sometimes you're either early with the idea or you're coming a little later than it's recommended, right? Especially, mostly you're early, which is the customer is not ready to adopt the idea yet. You haven't seen enough other examples of things, experiments run, that you can learn from, right? So you haven't got some amount of inherent knowledge built into the offering of the product, okay? So those are some of the things that matter. I think, I'll let the investors later talk to you about, what the investors look for.
Thank you.
The last question, if there's one.
Anyone else?
No, I think so.
Okay, there's one here in the front.
Okay,
You got one last question in the front. You have to get to the airport.
Yeah, I think you should. I'll summarize.
Thanks a lot, sir. You gave an example of Harish, but he's dealing with the hardware. Much of the things like what we are discussing in India is about the softwares and everything, but China is like improved in hardwares too. Like it can replicate any kind of hardwares, like original to duplicate such things. In India, don't you think that we have to increase the hardware development also?
Yeah, so Harish's thing is, while you may characterize it as hardware, it's much more of a service business, okay? It involves hardware repair. He's an expert in putting together things, repairing and all that, right? So I think, yes, you're absolutely right. We need to build more intelligent hardware, intelligent devices, make more manufacturing happen in India, especially of the electronic ESDM type. And that's, I hope will happen. It's a big leap, because even in the US now, they're starting to have gaps there, right, in that area. Europe has the same gaps, right, because China has done very successfully scaled up that industry, right? I think India has a unique opportunity to build a combination of software, high-value services, intelligent data, and hardware. I think we need to leverage our strengths in being able to build across those silos, because most products, most offerings that will go out in the world in the future will be some combination of these 3-4 things. It won't just be a piece of hardware. Your Fitbit is a piece of hardware, but guess what? A lot of the intelligence comes from the software. Okay? You might look at your iPhone as a piece of hardware. It's a hardware, but a lot of the software comes both on the device and in the cloud, right? So there's a whole bunch of things that we can excel at in the future. I think, but you're right, a little bit we are behind on the hardware thing, and we need to catch up. Thank you. Thank you all. I will leave you now. So for those of you who are interested, this Startup India event will be broadcast live on Doordarshan, 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. It goes on all day, so do watch if you want to learn more. This has been a great curtain raiser for me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you.
So I think, this was a great start for the day with Ravi. One request, I think there's a little bit of, I see a little bit of cross-talk. My request is, these are very eminent speakers and people who otherwise people pay, 15, 20,000 rupees just to listen to these people. So please, refrain from speaking between. It's not respectful of the people here on stage. Now the next speaker is a gentleman who again is very, very famous in the city for being a motivational speaker. People, he's really the guru of, both the corporate world and the young, entrepreneurial world, where he inspires them, helps them to kind of find themselves, reflect. He helps people overcome communication fears. In various forms, he actually is a master in bringing out the best in each one of you. So it's a tremendous opportunity for you to actually go through this session for the next 1.5 hours with Ian Faraya, who is who will probably change you from what you actually came in here today. So without much ado, I'd like to welcome Ian Faraya, and please make the best of this. Thank you.
ಆತ್ಮೀಯ ಯುವಕರೇ,